What's up, it's me, Karen, your favorite booktuber, and it's time for me to bow down to the booktube gods and do the mid-year book tag, mid-year review tag, whatever it may be. And if this was an offering to booktube gods, that would not have been the best start, but whatever. I have read 59 books. Today is June 1st, 2024, and I would have loved to have come to you guys and been like, I read 60 books in the first half of the year, because then we could have been like, all things equal, if we expect for things to move along at the same pace, by the end of the year, I will have read 120 books. Now, having read 59 books, we can round up to 60 and therefore assume that possibly by the end of the year, I will have read 120. And considering my goals in the beginning of the year, I think I did a mid-reach, high-low goal situation where in the low category, by end of year, if I read 104 books, that's a win. And if I read 156, that's like big win. And if I fall somewhere in the middle, we're winning. I'll take any win I can get. Anyways, having read those 59 books, about 70% of them were fiction reads, and the other 30% were nonfiction. I have to say, I've just really been enjoying nonfiction, and there are a lot of new releases, biographies in particular, of women that are really calling my name right now that I would love to read, but whatever. All things considered, when we look at some of my reading stats vis-a-vis Storygraph, we can see that the top 5 categories that my reading falls into is literary, history, contemporary, LGBTQIA+, and historical. Now, obviously, considering that nonfiction reading that I've been doing, reading historical or history-based books makes sense, but I have noticed that I've read a lot of contemporary releases, and that kind of weighs on the soul a little bit because it's such a mixed bag. So hopefully by end of year, I would like to read more backlist, slow down a little, not in terms of rating, but just in terms of the frenzy to read new releases. And I did have reading goals. I don't really remember them. I could have watched the video and had a almost come to Jesus moment where I'm like, how am I doing on these goals? But it's not that deep. Yeah, we'll deal with that on a different day. Today's not the day. Finally, we're gonna start with the tag. How has your 2024 reading year gone so far? Well, I kind of did answer that in my preamble. It's been okay. We might as well just talk about some of my goals. I know one of them was to read at least 6 fashion books, and I think I have kind of been making moves towards that. I've read that book on pockets, which was awesome, and I have picked out a few other books that can fit into that category and that have piqued my interest and that would qualify for that. I know I'd wanted to do something read around the world related, and I haven't really thought about in what capacity I would engage with that challenge, but I have been reading internationally, most notably because of Booker, but then also right now I'm reading Seasons of the Migration to the North, which is a book by a Sudanese author, and I've been reading a lot from Norway, by which I mean I've read one book and I picked out another one. So things are happening on that front. But yeah, and I think some of the other things that I wanted to do is I wanted to read more Elizabeth Hardwick. I've not made moves on that just yet, but we still have 6 more months remaining. The second question, the one that's more interesting, I would say, because it's probably what you're here for anyways, what has been the best books that I've read so far in 2024? And I don't think it's going to come as any surprise because I do think the books that I like, I kind of talk about them often and mention them. Earlier in the year, we had The Extinction of Irina Ray. This is a very funny book in my opinion. It's about a bunch of translators whose beloved author has gone missing and they are bereft without her. It's like they're chickens running around without their head. They don't know what's up, they don't know what's down. They're losing the plot. I thought it was really funny, very meta, and a good time. After that, we'll kind of vaguely go in the order that I read them. Actually, what order? Oh, Kairos would be next. This was an international booker, long list, short list, and the winner of 2023 international booker. Is that how they number those things? Anyways, this is great, phenomenal. It's a age gap relationship between this young woman, an old guy, and we're looking at the East-West Germany divide, and their relationship acts as a prism to view this political landscape. However, we're really mired in their relationship, so if you were looking for more of the politics and getting a real understanding of people's life during that time, you won't really get that. I did enjoy the writing on this. I thought it was so good. It's really interesting in the ways in which the author will have us switch points of view, sometimes in the same paragraph, in the same sentence. Like, it's just a really nice writing. After that, James by Percival Everett, which is retelling of the adventures of Huckleberry Finn, where we are centering Jim's narrative, and I think it is done so well. Percival Everett is quite prolific, and in this novel, this was my second Percival Everett book, I really was able to enjoy his writing, storytelling capabilities. I think Percival Everett is someone who really relies on dialogue in such an interesting way to tell the story, but in this, we're really seeing Jim as a full-on character, very fleshed out. He has this rage, this very understandable rage, and a desire to tell his own story in a way that is quite moving. After that, the next book that I was really obsessed with this year, it has been Brat by Gabrielle Smith. We are all here for Brat Summer. Listen to the music, read the book, go to Brat in London and eat some bratty food and just have a little moment. This is a kind of slightly gothic story, but more so a look at grief and the ways in which it fucks with our memory. I really liked this because I think the tone is quite sardonic and funny, and I was here for the ride. Best sequel you've read so far in 2024. I did some interesting things earlier in the year. I read Fourth Wing, and then the book after that, I read the second book in the Holly Black duology. This is The Prisoner's Throne. I think there might have been another fantasy book that I read the second of, but I might be completely wrong. To be honest, both the second book in the Fourth Wing situation and this weren't as good as the first. So I don't really have an answer to that question. I don't have a best sequel that I've read so far. I just have two sequels that I've read, a possible third that I can't recall, and those are the thoughts there. The next question number 4, a new release you haven't read but you want to. Okay, there's a lot of biographies that are out right now that I keep on seeing in the bookstore, and I take photos of them every single time I go, the cover, so I can remember them, but it's but literally it's how can I take this many photos of the same how can I take this many photos of the same book, but I just want them so badly. But these hardcover books are pricey. Anyways, the first one is Chasing Beauty, which is a biography on Isabella Stewart Gardiner, who, if you're not from the Boston area, she was a society woman who turned her house into a museum and then bequeathed it to the city under the stipulation that they would never change it, and that has stayed true. They have never changed it. When the museum pieces were stolen, I think in the 90s, the empty frames are still there, hanging in the museum. And I just really want to read it. I started it on audiobook from Libby, and I probably made it 30 minutes in, and I was just I think I want to read this physically. And then when I went to the bookstore, I could see that there was lots of black and white photos interspersed within the text, and that's a book that I might crumble and get that. And then the other ones are, there's a new Carson McCullers biography that's just come out. There's a Leonora Carrington biography that I've also seen in the bookstores. There's lots of really great biographies coming out on interesting women that I just want to read. Also, I think I should point out at this time and date is that I started Martyr, which was I think a 2024 release or maybe end of 2023 release, Martyr by Kaveh Akbar, and it's good. I'm 40% of the way through. I just need to finish it before the end of the year. That's one of my goals. Maybe I can manage before end of summer, but that's a book that I know so many people have read and enjoyed. And the thing is, I do enjoy it. This, if you don't know, Martyr is a story of a young Iranian American kid, recent college grad, who is recently sober and he's an orphan, he has no family, and he's trying to suss out what is the meaning of life and how does one live, but also how can one's death have meaning. And so he's obsessed with martyrs, and then he comes across this artist, and that's kind of about where I've gotten to. I do think it's such a enjoyable read. However, there were so many POV switches that I put it down. But I need to return back to it because I do want to read it. And so that's the answer to that question. Question number 5, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. First of all, we have The Stepdaughter by Caroline Blackwood, which comes out August 6th. This is a McNally's edition book. You guys know I love myself a McNally's edition. Paper quality, interesting stories. And this one is a book that I'm so eager to read. However, they keep on pushing back the publication date, so God willing, we get it before the year is up. The other book that I'm interested in, there's 2, obviously, okay? And we all kind of know them because they've been doing the rounds of IG, Twitter, book talk, whatever those things may be. The first one is Didion and Babbitts, which is I don't know if it's a biography of both of them, but it's more so just a look at these 2 women's relationships. I did reach out to the publisher asking for a copy, and they opened my email. I know they did, but no one responded, and I didn't get it. So there's that. And then the second one I'm vaguely interested in is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. And this is also time for me to air another grievance, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. I don't know if this is slightly my personality, because I do have a slight bent towards being a contrarian, but seeing so many people get the arc makes me not want to buy this book. It's this happens a lot. This publishing is not the only industry that does this, that sends out so many free samples to influencers, whatever it may be. It happens in beauty, it happens in fashion. What comes to mind most recently is Dior and the saddlebag. When that happens, for me as a consumer, and in this regards, I am a consumer because I would be going to the shop and purchasing a book, even though I don't like to think of the things that I'm doing as having a quality of consumption involved within it. But when I see that, it does not make me want to buy something. Just how, I don't know. Do you guys feel this way? Please let me know. I'm not alone in this tick, quirk, chip. I don't know what's going on there. The next question was biggest disappointment of the year. And this is kind of hard because I do think that there have actually been a few things that I've read that did not really tickle my fancy or did not hold up to my expectation of them. One of them is a book that is an interesting read, but also not. And that is Once Upon a Time, The Captivating Life of Caroline Bessette Kennedy, which is, as you would imagine, a biography on Caroline Bessette Kennedy, the wife of JFK Jr. And why this is a disappointment is because, first of all, I was so eager to read this. I don't think we've gotten a biography on her beforehand, or if we had, they've been so salacious because her media presence, she was so contained. And this book, the author starts off with the premise that she really wants to give us a full 360 picture of who this woman was, but also show the ways in which the media at the time really fucked with the perception of her. However, I think our author falls into the trap of falling in love with their subject, and every page is filled with quotes or the author's own insertion of how beautiful Caroline was, or how charming and kind she was. The phone rang. I don't know where I was at this, but I think what I was saying was that the author falls into the trap of just, rather than giving us a nuanced portrait of her subject, she just doles out compliments. She becomes her subject's greatest admirer. And I think she does Caroline Bessette Kennedy a disservice in that regard, because we don't get the nuanced portrait that she was aiming for. We just get a very manicured or overly simplified story. How many times can we hear about how beautiful she was? We know that. We see the images on Instagram. They're always making the rounds almost every day. You know what I mean? There's so many videos and TikToks and how to get her style. What were the hallmarks of it? I'm going to speak more about this because I do think there were a few interesting bits of information, in particular in regards to her style, but that will happen in my June reading wrap up. The next question is, so the second half of this, because I started and I was let me flesh these out, let me draft a little. And then I was just well, let's just dive right into it. Let's go. The next question, as I've said multiple times probably, is the biggest disappointment. No, sorry. It is number 7, biggest surprise of 2024 so far. Finding Kairos from the International Booker Long List was a big surprise. Brat was a surprise. I mean, all the books that I've enjoyed have been a surprise, because how can you expect to enjoy them if you've not read them just yet? So that's kind of my workaround for that question. Number 8, favorite new author, new to you or debut. I'm gonna go with Rachel Ingalls. Earlier in the year, I read Mrs. Caliban and Binstead Safari, which are both stories of women who are in unhappy marriages and trying to finagle a new life for themselves. And though most people on the internet are believe that Mrs. Caliban is the superior book, I personally really liked Binstead Safari, and I think the author Rachel Ingalls, is a quite masterful storyteller. And so those were just books that I had not expected to pick up, and then I picked them up and I really enjoyed them, and I think that was a happy, wonderful surprise, and that's what we want when we're reading. I think also, I'm gonna have to add this into here, and I think it will come up. Reading Fourth Wing really surprised me. I was, obviously that book has been all over the social world, and such a success as a result of the social media presence it garnered, but I picked it up, and you can't really necessarily say that something new and novel has occurred in that book, but it was just a lot of fun to read. And the writing might not be the strongest, but you don't necessarily need that in every single book that you're reading. And I was just so surprised by how much I liked that book. And I do think I will continue with the series, even though I am operating under the assumption that because of something that I read on Reddit, that I think I know how it's going to end, and it's going to end in a way that I don't like, but I'm still here for the ride. But the second book was really bad. Newest fictional crush. Now, honestly, this is goes in hand with the question prior. Xaden from Fourth Wing is really hot. I'm here for it. Question number 10, books that made you cry. I don't think there's been a book that's full on made me sob. But James by Percival Everett did make me tear up towards the end. And this is question number 11, book you saw on TikTok and regret reading. There was I didn't see these because of TikTok. I would have to say, and you guys can also let me know, does TikTok actually inspire your reading, inform your reading rather? Do you see something on there and it actually makes you go pick the book up? Because I've seen a decent amount of book-ish things on Book Talk, and there have been a few nonfiction books that I have read as a result of TikTok, but I have not picked up any fiction book because of TikTok, I don't think, unless of course you happen to go back in one of my old videos and you find out that there was something that I've now at this moment in time and place have forgotten, and in which case I retract my statements. But yeah, I don't think I find much from there that's really interesting. However, there are certain things that have gotten lots of big marketing pushes, or been the book of the moment that I did read, and I can think of 2, but I don't want to say them out loud. So we're just going to move past this question very quickly. Question number 12, most beautiful book you bought this year. Any of the McNally editions. I really liked Ladies of the Rachmaninoff Eyes. I think that cover, that, we often see that sort of pattern in a red color, but I like that it's in blue. The next question, what are the books you need to read by the end of the year? I want to finish Martyr. There's actually, I feel quite overwhelmed with all the books that I have that I've not read just yet. And I have just purchased 6 books over the weekend, so I'd really like to read those before the year is up. I need to finish Middlemarch. That is a book that I started and need to finish before the end of the year. And as of some holdovers from 2023, if we're going to go there, is Crime and Punishment, which I started but did not finish. That's a book that I should also make some moves on. Yeah, next question. Favorite video you've made so far in 2024. So personally, I don't necessarily think I'm really rocking the boat when it comes to my booktube videos that I make. Nothing revolutionary is occurring here. Most often I feel that the most recent video that I made is the one that I'm most partial to, is the one that makes me the most excited. However, I recently did an author interview with Reuven Fenton, who was the author of Boyhood, and I really liked the chat that I had with him. And I wish more people would watch that video. So if you haven't yet, check that out. And then also I do think that the 2 vlogs that I've made in most recent past, the one about my trip to Paris and my time spent in Bombay, I think in India, pardon, both of those were videos in which I just felt really silly and fun. And I think that translated over the video. And those are 2 that I enjoyed. A video you thought that would flop but did well. I don't know, I kind of think all of these videos are gonna flop, and then they do okay. Any upcoming videos you're excited to make? I'm gonna make a video where I'm gonna, because I've been talking so much about them, women biographies, I'm gonna make a video going through some that I've read and some that I want to read and just share with you guys so that you can have them on your radar, and I'm excited to be making that. Any channel goals before the end of the year? I don't remember answering these questions last year, but I don't know. I finally have made it to 2,000 subscribers, so thank you all for that. That's feels like quite the accomplishment. It took us 3 years to get to that, so it would be cool, like a reach goal. It would be if by end of year we're at 3K, but even if we're not, if I just stay consistent, I think that's, you know, a good thing to aim for. And yeah, that's all I have to say for right now. Thanks so much for watching, and please let me know how your reading's going, any goals, or maybe you can also let me know, like, if you want to see a specific, because the last half of these questions were YouTube video related. If there's any specific videos that you want to see, let me know. And with that, I will see you guys later. Thank you.